Welcome to PCA 2023. I'm sitting down with Erik from Oak Glen Tobacconist. Erik, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for asking me here.
Yeah.
Great.
I've known you, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, since like the beginning of our shop.
Right.
Yeah,
And your shop started out in a train car.
it did.
And it still is.
It is.
But
We're kind of outgrowing
You're expanding a little bit,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there was a coffee shop next door. Are you pushing into that coffee shop?
Not as much there. So you kind of have like where the train car is situated, our back patio. It's more expanding in the back there.
Oh, yes. In the outdoor area.
Yes, exactly. Okay. But then, of course, like when we started, not even all our shelves were full. Now we're like, yeah, we got cigars tucked underneath, and we got cigars like so. Yeah.
How does that feel, though, to grow something like that?
It's incredibly humbling. I mean, we've been definitely blessed, and it's been, I'm not going to say an easy journey, but it's been a really rewarding one.
So then what things, like, what was like one of the hardest things you did to start out?
I think, I mean, we're in California, so that's always a huge challenge. But grace was given to us in the fact that licensing wasn't that big of an issue. It was more of finding consistency because we're in a really high traffic area for tourism. During half of the year, it's fantastic. Half of the year, it's very slow. So trying to find a consistent like revenue base, and that eventually started turning when we started going online and having an online presence.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So really catering to reaching out to the consumer no matter where they were.
Yes.
Versus geographically.
Yes. And what's also been a really long road is our membership, because we have a subscription box. And once we started gaining a little bit more traction there, there's some consistency there, but also reaching a community outside of our state.
Right.
So,
okay. Yeah. So now you're being able to peddle both. You're basically on the local scene. You got that figured out. It's kind of seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're working on this online subscription.
Right. Right.
Okay. And then with the location, I remember like looking at your hours, and it was like maybe 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now what are you?
So we're 6 days a week. We keep getting tempted with maybe doing 7 full days a week.
Really?
But originally, like when we kicked it off, I was working another job, so I would do 3 days at my other job and 3 days at the shop. Till that became 4, 5, 6. We'll see if 7 happens.
Oh my gosh! If somebody's out there and they're like, I think I want to start a retail location. What's like your one, maybe 2 things that you're like, you gotta make sure you have this?
So I would say what's really helped us is be open to people experienced in this industry, giving advice and being open to hearing that advice. Not all of it is applicable to your particular situation, but there can be a lot of like, if you humble yourself enough to understand, okay, I can learn from this person, their mistakes, what to avoid. But I think the biggest misconception is that it's a one size fits all when you start your company. I don't think that's the case. So, but being open to the people who really want to help you out, like shout out to like Tim Swanson, Cigars Daily. Yeah. He really was instrumental with us getting online. And so being open to those conversations.
And they don't see that as a threat?
Honestly, like you hear, I think all of us have heard this, that the cigar industry is one big family.
Sure.
Now, there's of course give and take of that, but there are some genuinely awesome people in this industry. And when you start off so small, you're not really a competitor. And so it's kind of like, hey, if you're willing to help me out, I'm willing to listen. And so really just being in for that, basically.
That's awesome. Who's been your biggest supporter as you've gone on to this kind of new entrepreneurial?
I would definitely say my wife, Mallory, for sure. Everyone's always like, how did you convince her to open up a shop? And I remember when the opportunity happened, I was kicking it around for about a couple of weeks. And then I told her, hey, this might be a thing. What do you think? And she was like, you have to do it. You've got to try it.
Really?
Yeah. So there was no like forcing or
no
wheeling and dealing. No, she was like, this is what you need to do.
Okay. So how did you find the train car?
So through like extended family, my landlord, the owner of the property, is actually her cousin. And so we had already known of the property. We had known of the situation. And they had suggested, hey, we want to do a cigar situation. And it was my idea to say, hey, I would like to do it, but it would be my shop, not necessarily working for somebody.
Right. And why was that important? Because you kind of wanted to have your own control?
Yeah, that, but also like I had been a cigar nerd for like 8 years, done a
Yeah.
lot of the research, and so I didn't really want to be pouring my heart and soul into someone else's business.
Yep.
And I feel like there is the gamble, and you are taking the risk, but there's more like ownership and enjoyment and fulfillment when you take that on yourself, when you're that passionate about it.
Right. And I remember you telling me like the first trade show that you went to. Tell me your budget again.
It's kind of absurd.
Yeah, absurd, and like that's how much people spent to get there.
Right. So our budget when we went to the first TB, it was like a month and a half before COVID hit. We had not even been open a year, but we said, hey, let's go to our first trade show. Our budget was $1,200.
1,200. Then did you go to PCA right after that?
No, so PCA skipped because of
Oh,
COVID.
because of COVID. So
So-
when you came back to PCA, you had how many years? 3 years underneath your belt?
Yeah, we were going on 30.
What was your budget then?
It had grown about tenfold at that point, and then
So you're
it's,
looking at right around 10, 20,000?
yeah, around there, yeah, and then it's kind of snowballed and gotten bigger and bigger.
So here, where are we at now? Ballpark.
So we're near the 30 range, around there.
That's great.
So it's still, like I said, we're still a smaller company, but to start from such a mom and pop situation and continue to grow that, we've formed certain relationships that we've had some people say, how did you get so and so to make you a cigar?
Right.
Because he doesn't do private contracting.
Right.
It's the relationship, and it's the community and the voice that our membership has started to gain.
Really?
Yeah. So, for example, we just, I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Barrios Stallone Cigars.
Yeah, Stallone.
So we've grown our account with him, and he's blended us a really exceptional cigar. And he was like, I couldn't believe it when you had done your membership and we had gotten the cigar. People all over are contacting me. Hey, the cigar you did for OGT is fantastic, and he's getting posts everywhere. And that's one of the main focal points is to spotlight the blender of the month that we're using.
Okay. So on that, if I'm a retail location, I want to start a subscription. What's the number one thing I need to be focused on? How do I get it going? So it's,
I would say community and quality within the blends and cigars. It's not about, while OGT is the sort of like the vehicle for the subscription, it's not meant to be a reflection on us. It's a reflection on the blender and the talents in our industry, as well as growing a cigar community we couldn't reach just within our state borders.
okay, what tools are you using then to connect that digital community?
Unfortunately, in the cigar world, advertising only exists organically, social media.
Right.
And so we of course, we have a podcast. We're on all social media formats. And our clientele are really awesome. Word of mouth kind of spreads. And so it's a daily grind. It's not that I'm making one viral video, how to cut a cigar, and here we go.
Right.
A lot of those things are, I feel like, kind of behind us.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Just as much as a retailer clocks in from a 9 to 5, a part of his job is also the culture and the community growing beyond that, and that online and subscription that comes into play.
Okay, so I guess you were thinking of advertising. I'm thinking of technology that you use
Okay.
to like bring the community together. So is there like a Facebook group? Is there what is there for the OGT?
So there is an OGT Facebook group. The first Thursday of every month, all our members who are able to log on, we broadcast live from our shop. Members in shop smoke the same cigar. Members out of the state jump on YouTube, smoke at the same time. We compare notes together.
You're using YouTube Live, basically.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how does that go? Do the people online feel included?
For the most part, as we've grown, we've kind of had to take that in stride. We've had to sort of learn how to make that happen. Once in a while, for some of our members who want to jump on, we'll send them like a StreamYard link so they can jump in the chat as well. Not only commenting, but visually as well.
Right.
So whatever we can do as our membership grows, kind of like it evolving to that, adapting to that.
With the YouTube, they can't comment?
They can do that,
Okay.
but it's like trying to find other ways more inclusive beyond just commenting. So maybe this month you get a link and then we can smoke it face to face virtually together that way.
Got it. And how about then the technology issues? Anytime where you're like, oh, wow, that's just not going to happen.
So we are in the mountains and we
Yeah.
broadcast from the mountains.
Yeah.
So there was a time we were in the middle of a storm and we had to be really like on our feet. We're like, okay, YouTube Live is just not going to happen right now. So
Right.
we'll do it on Instagram Live, or we'll do it. we try to make whatever means necessary, but at the end of the day, there are some things you just can't help.
Right. And you just have to figure it out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, it's really great to see the fact that you've grown your business in the manner that you want to, and you haven't, I would assume you haven't taken too much risk as far as debt and all that. You were very mindful of
Yes.
making sure that you're moving forward without taking up too much risk.
Right. And in the beginning, when you're bringing on new brands, you don't necessarily know how they're going to perform out the gate.
Right.
Shows like this, and now that we've built certain like followings for certain brands, it's far less of a risk in the back of your mind, because it's like now we're starting to see a rotation, a consistency.
Right.
So like for example, Oveja Negra is a huge brand for us. Every one of our members love it. And so when they come out with new stuff, I'm starting to now get requests. Hey, are you picking this up? I want it from the show. And so I'll tell them, hey, I've got requests for this. I want to make sure we bring it back. So
That's so cool. So you're really connected to your consumer.
yes.
And would you say the shop or the monthly subscription made that more possible?
I would say the shop first. That's where our original like clientele grew, and Mallory and I always had that as our focal point, as the community. I'm sure we've all been to those shops, walking the gauntlet, where you walk in and all the heads turn to you, and you're like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't belong here. I don't know.
Right.
And so we definitely wanted that at the forefront of that's not what our shop reflects.
Right.
That's not what we want to bring. So once our clientele, we started saying, okay, there's a family, there's a community here. Then the question with the membership is, how do we present this opportunity to other people who can't come to our shop? And so it's really humbling and overwhelming, especially even at this show. We'll be walking by and someone will say hi, and I'll turn to my wife and say, oh, he's a member from Indiana, or he's a member from Wisconsin. And it's happened multiple times just in the last few days. And it's not only cool that exists, but also to finally meet them in person.
Right.
So
are they retailers, or are they people that work in retail? Or?
Some of them were just cigar enthusiasts, and now they're working with certain retailers or working with certain brands, but they still continue to support us, and so we like to support them. So we'll be like, yeah, we'll stop by the booth. Let's see what it's all about. So it's really
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're getting other people that work in retail to join the OGT Society just based on the community you're building.
Yes, and I will also say I cannot take credit for a large portion of the community, because especially our clientele at the shop too, they're very welcoming. You can't just like instruct and teach people, customers, be welcoming to other customers. Yeah, exactly. So that type of organic like building and growth has been really awesome to see.
But that's just probably who you are in nature. So you're fostering that through your customers.
I mean, I would hope.
Yeah. No, I see it, man. Okay, so if your shop were somebody famous, who would they be and why?
In terms of a person, I know we had kind of a conversation.
Yeah. They don't have to be a cigar smoker, just like a persona that we can all relate to, that you say, yep, that's me.
So I'm not going to lie, it's a challenge to come up with one particular persona, one person.
You can give me a couple.
But there's as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's a film. I'm sure you're familiar with Frank Capra, who directed It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
And he directed a few other old movies. He's got a film that was made in the 40s called, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it all of a sudden. It's, You Can't Take It With You. Sorry about that.
You can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you. And so in this, there's this household, extended family, friends, in-laws, that all live in this one household. One's learning to be a dancer, one's learning to be a playwright, the other is an ex-executive. And so this sort of community, they're all learning something separately, but they're all living together in hospitality. And I really hope that our shop and our membership is kind of represented in that same way.
Yeah.
Education is always at the forefront, community. And there's people, everyone will say this in the cigar industry, all different walks of life.
Right.
And so that common ground, the common interest, but also whether it's talking about cigars, talking about work, talking about life, that it's welcome and there's that hospitality.
Love it. Great analogy. based on a movie then,
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
particular
I
character.
mean, I guess Lionel Barrymore is the forefront of that
Yeah.
of acting, so he does a pretty good job
Great.
of embodying that type of nature.
Love it. Eric, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
It's been cool to see the growth over the years. I love the fact that you're here at the show with more money in your pocket to bring back those cigars to your consumers.
Right.
And
Right.
you're getting requests.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you are just really doing a service to the whole industry to get, again, to grow that pie, to get more people smoking cigars, enjoying it, and just enjoying the culture.
Well, and I hope that through that we can continue to offer that type of service, but also shine the spotlight on maybe those companies at one time were also just like myself, very small, slowly
Right.
gaining traction. Because honestly, where we're at, California, there's not a lot of shops, but a lot of the shops that you find will have some of the bigger brand cigars, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we definitely noticed the relationships we formed are with some of the companies that are started out maybe smaller and have kind of grown with us.
Yeah.
And so it's this type of like growth community, and like every year seeing their company get bigger, and then we meet them and our orders are getting bigger, and it's a really
Yeah.
symbiotic relationship.
That's awesome. That's great, man. The other thing is you do a lot of videos.
Mhm.
If I'm a retailer, I don't know what I'm doing for videos. What are the like 3 things I need to have that make it super simple?
So of course, naturally, equipment's one. Whether you want to use an iPhone, whether you want to use a souped-up camera, I've always been of the understanding of if I'm going to start this, I don't have to go in completely deep and have a huge budget. Let's first see if I keep this up.
Yeah, I think the iPhone's just fine.
It works just fine,
And a wireless mic.
right. Wireless mic. Lighting does help as well. We've
Right.
done a lot of guerrilla shooting, so that's not always to hand.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things I would say, social media or filming or posting or whatever, consistency is the most important.
So continually making those videos
Yes.
every time.
Yes. And I mean, there's all the time at the shop, people be like, well, can you just sit down and have a cigar? I'm like, in an hour or so. Are you taking more photos? Yeah. I'm like, it just never ends. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there's a huge part of owning a shop is not just put the cigar on the shelf, hopefully it sells, hopefully someone walks in. It's more of, let's see what we can do if someone finally lights that cigar up. Maybe film a bit of history about the blend, about what you're smoking, enrich the experience.
Heck yeah. So you're really actively selling that cigar through video, through social media, through even like, I would assume what's around the store.
Yes. So even like if you go to our display shelves, instead of just having the price, we got the company name, the name of the cigar, the size, the binder, wrapper, filler, strength, and then price.
You're doing shelf talkers on your own.
Yes.
And do you just have a template for this now?
Yes. My wife is a graphic design artist, so she
created the template.
She created the first one,
and it goes on every single one.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
And that way, because I mean, I know when I first got started, I thought, oh, if it's a Maduro, it just means I like this. And so when you get into it, oh, San Andreas and Matafina and broadleaf and all these different things, if we're potentially at a really busy point and I can't be the hand in the humidor if I'm helping someone else, someone can say, I like San Andreas. You can look at the tags. Which else is San Andreas? Oh, this one's from Nicaragua. This one's from Dominican. And hopefully make a more educated, informative decision.
How are you organizing your small humidor right away?
It's organized by brands, and then it is. And if there are certain brands that we carry that use tobaccos, let's use an example of Aganorsa leaf. They're a huge tobacco supplier. So if we have someone like Black Star Line who also uses some of them, we'll keep them kind of together.
You're trying to kind of pair that up with the maker.
Right.
Now, your humidor being small, you said, and then now you're getting to the point where you're just stuffing stuff.
Decisions have to be made.
Right. So how is that playing a role? Like, are you thinking about growing out of that humidor and expanding? Or are you just going to get, like, I don't know, like IKEA the heck out of that humidor?
So the humidor walls and the shelves themselves are all 100% Spanish cedar, inch thick. So we don't necessarily want to throw in we don't want it to where you walk in the humidor and the presentation is lacking.
Right.
So there is that side. I think it's really being informative of what brands we're carrying, what turn around the best, And if we're carrying a new brand, that means they're taking the space of a brand that's maybe not doing that turnover.
Sure.
So there are challenges with a small humidor, but then there's also some pros to it in the side of you have kind of a better idea and an easier time keeping track of where everything's going and how well things are moving as well.
And your customer doesn't get overwhelmed.
It's true. Yeah.
And you limit your buying.
Yes. Yes, completely.
So you kind of have.
And one thing is, I think everyone here at the show, anyone who's into cigars, always has that question: what's new? And that question is posed, and we almost every week have about 1 to 2 new products in our humidor every time. And a lot of that has to do
a week. 1 to 2 new products a week.
And a lot of that has to come into play with the boutique side, because there's so many limited edition this, limited edition that. And so we'll save up certain things, like Saka will come out with something. So we've only got a certain amount of boxes. It's available online. It typically goes very quickly. So I'll hold back maybe a box or two for those who are interested at the shop that want to try that single. If I've got some customers that are like box buyers, yeah, I'll set that aside. But our turnover rate on a lot of these boutique brands is pretty quick, pretty immediate.
And when you say, how are you making sure that you can get 1 or 2 new boxes a week? Is it just because you're not buying super deep?
Not so much super deep, but I also try to plan out our months in advance. So if I see something coming down the pipeline, hey, this is going to be available on this date, then you can hold back your buying power on maybe some of your core line stuff and watching what's moving and kind of plan it out. Okay, this is going to be our mover for this week. This is going to be our mover for this week. And we're really active in the sampler pack side. So if a brand, say Salone, comes out with a limited production, we don't want someone just to grab the hot item and leave.
Right.
So let's put it in a 5-pack, explore the portfolio, plus try the new thing. And that really helps turn that inventory.
I love it. And then I suppose the membership, the monthly membership, helps you get in new product, because you're always getting in new product. And like you said, you might take 1 or 2 boxes and put them on the shelf.
Right.
Okay.
But I will also say there's a high amount of pressure, because every month we are curating either a custom Vitola, a limited product, or a custom blend for our members every month. So we're having to, we're contracted for our subscription base out until about December. Some cigars are already in our humidor resting. Some are resting in Nicaragua, will be sent over. And so we've kind of learned, okay, let's plan out. If we need a cigar that's for our membership, let's plan it out for January of 2024 or February of 2024. And we're having to turn that every single month.
Okay. So you're planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you mean by turning it every month? Because then you would have had, if you're planning for 2024, you already have what you need now.
Most of the time, what we'll do is we will ask the people making our cigars to hold them within at the factory in Nicaragua, Dominican, Honduras, and then they'll ship them all the cigars about a month, 2 months prior to the release. So they have time to acclimate, they have time to rest. But at the same time, we're not having to store 6 months worth of subscriptions in our humidor.
Got it. How did you get the financial ability to kind of go six months out? Because that takes some time, right?
It does.
It takes some resources.
We've built up the reputation of being known for being able to. I was told this with getting into the industry is when you shake someone's hand, this is your contract, and you don't back out of it. And so we've built that reputation, and we've built those relationships. And so, for an example, we've had a cigar that we had blended in December of last year that will be released, I believe, September, October. It was finally delivered in our humidor last month. And so they do a lot of payment on delivery. They know that we're going to follow through. They also see the movement that we're in, and so they're there to support it, which is really awesome.
So you're not paying for it until you get it delivered to you.
Right. And so as long as you plan ahead enough and you budget it that way, it starts to smooth more like a well-oiled machine.
And when you say not having to pay until delivery, you weren't able to do that right away, though, right?
No.
So you had to pay all that cash up front.
Mm-hmm.
But now, is this because of your limited edition stuff that you're seeing this?
I think also the volume of customers and the volume of members. And so when you want to grow something, then you're always ordering a big extra, hoping,
Right.
hey, we'll gain a bit more. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. But we've been really invested in the brands that we work with, and it's worked out in terms of like budgeting for that and making that kind of work all together.
Nice. That's awesome. I just love seeing the growth, man.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for sharing. Hopefully, some of the retailers that watch this are going to pick up a few tips. Just keep it simple making videos.
Yeah.
If you're doing a subscription, you definitely have to probably throw some limited edition stuff. You got to build that community. And then on top of it, a big humidor is not always the best thing, right? You know, you have to know what you're selling.
It would be nice.
Are you using a specific program to measure transactions, or are you just doing this all by what you see?
We do. We use a level of WooCommerce, level of like we're on our website operates on the same inventory, so we're able to work around that.
Got it.
I'll be honest. In this industry, it's not easy to find e-commerce or even POS systems that like to work with tobacco.
Right.
So I have yet to find the perfect one. Everyone
Sure.
comes with its challenges. At our level of size right now, it seems to be working. We'll see if that changes in the future.
Got it. All right. Erik, thank you so much.
No, of course.
Oak
Thank
Glen
you.
Tobacconist out in California. PCA 2023.